Yes, move your second leg of the motion that will suspend our rules to allow you to take.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. This is a matter of urgent public importance. On the call on the federal government to appoint more justices.
You move that will suspend our rules to enable you to take the matter now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. While moving the motion, I thought it was a double-barrel motion. By your guidance, I move that we suspend our rules to enable us take this motion today to give it the urgency that it requires. I so move, sir.
Seconder, Honorable Maki.
Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, I'm Abubakar Maki Eleman. I represent Malamodori Kaugama Federal Constituency. I'm from Jigawa State. I stand to second the motion heavily moved by my honorable colleagues. I so second. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. That's have it. Honorable, you may go ahead and present your motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Onofiog Luke, representing Etinan Nsetibum, Nsurubium Federal Constituency. I'm from Akwa Ibom State. Mr. Speaker, this is a matter of urgent public importance on the need to call on the federal government to appoint more justices to fill the vacant positions at the Supreme Court to expedite justice delivery in the country. The House notes that the Supreme Court of Nigeria is the apex and final court of the land with original and appellate jurisdiction over the entire country to adjudicate on dispute and controversies arising from any subject matter. Also note that as a result of its original and appellate jurisdiction over the entire country, the Supreme Court is faced with the huge responsibility of handling volume of cases with minimal number of justices. Aware that the number of justices of the Supreme Court has been reduced to 13 with the recent retirement of Honorable Justice Amiru Sanusi from the court, and the situation will become worse owing to the impending retirement of another justice of the court in few months from now. Also aware that Section 230 sub 2 paragraph B of the 1999 Constitution as amended prescribes the maximum number of the justices of the Supreme Court to be 21, and the court in its history has not had a full complement of the prescribed 21 number of justices. Worried that the reduction in the number of justices will slow down the dispensation of justice and affect the pace at which matters are meant to be determined, and will put the available number of justices of the court under immense pressure, as there are many cases to be decided by the court. Concerned that some cases stay undecided in the Supreme Court for over 10 years, and that as of now, the diary of the Supreme Court seems to be full for new appeal up till year 2021. Cognizant that appointing new justices to the Supreme Court will accelerate justice dispensation, expand the course of justice, and increase citizens' access to justice. The House therefore resolves to 1. Urge the federal government to appoint more justices to the Supreme Court in order to accelerate the determination of cases and dispensation of justice. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Under. Yes, Kogi. Yes, Honorable. I will recognize you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, I remain Abdullah Ibrahim Halims, representing Ampa Omala Lamoro Federal Constituency. I stand to support the motion of urgent public importance moved by my colleague, Honorable Isikem Ifeto. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Luke, you may go ahead and lead the debate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Luke Seribom, Etinan Seribom Surubio, Federal Constituency of Akwa Ibom State. Thank you for indulging me, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as a foundation, let me quote directly the Chief Justice of Nigeria as had in the Punch newspaper of February 6, year 2020. I quote, he said, "You will recall that barely 7 weeks ago, being Thursday, December 12, 2019, we assembled here to honor our brother, Justice Kumai Bayan Aka, in a similar valedictory session. This ceremony painfully occasioned the depleting of our ranks at the Supreme Court. In a familiar fashion, this session too is built to further drastically reduce the number of Supreme Court justices to as low as 13. This is not cheering news in view of the ever-increasing number of appeals that flood the court on a daily basis." Unquote, quoting the Chief Justice of Nigeria, sir. And again, he said, "This is not cheering news in view of the ever-increasing number of appeals that flood the court on a daily basis. The CJN, as he and his colleagues are daily inundated with cases of different types. They can hardly have time for themselves and their families." Mr. Speaker, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has made provision for the number of justices that the Supreme Court should be composed of. But we have never had a full complement, and we are not talking about getting the Supreme Court to have its full complement. But what we are advocating today by this motion is that we need more justices to be appointed to the Supreme Court so that we can have less burden on the justices that are present today. Mr. Speaker, the number we have today is 13. And we know by reason of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Section 233 and 234 by composition, that if it's a case of the Supreme Court to exercise the original jurisdiction, or in cases of constitutional matters, the composition has to be 7-member panels, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we have today, the Supreme Court at a particular point in time cannot have 2 panels of that court, because they cannot have 2 panels of that court to sit on a constitutional matter or in the exercise of the original jurisdiction. So it is our belief today, and I plead with my colleagues, to see the need for us to urge the federal government to expedite action to appoint members of the bench to the Supreme Court, so that the ones that are already there can be relieved of the responsibility. Mr. Speaker, somewhere around December, the course list of the Supreme Court had 12 cases on a particular day. The court had to sit from 9 a.m. in the morning till almost about 5:30 in the evening, Mr. Speaker. And that is not good for the health of the justices of the Supreme Court, and it's not good for the dispensation of justice. So I want to urge my colleagues to lend their voice and support this motion and call on the federal government. While we are still advocating for the welfare and the security of our justices, of members of the bench and judicial officers, we should not be seen to add to their burden. So I urge, Mr. Speaker, that this motion should find favor before you, and this motion should find favor before my colleagues, so that we can pressurize and lend our voice and issue a resolution from this House to urge the federal government to appoint more justices to the Supreme Court. Mr. Speaker, those are my humble submissions, sir.
I would have ordinarily thought that this is a very straightforward motion, and therefore, with their permission, I would like to put the question. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Motion referred to relevant committees of the House. Yes, Honorable.
Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, I have a matter of urgent national report. I'm Honorable Samson Oko, member representing Odu of the Federal Constituency. I'm from Benue, and I'm renegade the nation. Mr. Speaker, there is a deadly disease that's ravaged in my place, in my federal constituency. I wanted to come under Order 8, Rule 4 and 7 to suspend our rule to enable me to take this matter as a matter of urgent national importance. Mr. Speaker, I move.
The other Ababa.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Sylvester Waga, representing Abakaliki Z Federal Constituency. I stand to second the motion, heavily moved by Honorable Samson Oko. So second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. That's have it. You move for the suspension of our rules to enable you to take the motion now.
I've moved with the suspension already, Mr. Speaker. I can take the motion now. That is the rule. Order 8 rules. Rule 4 and 7. Okay, I move that the rule be suspended for allowing me to take this matter as urgent national importance, Mr. Speaker.
No. Second, yes,
Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, my name is Idem Unyime, member representing Ukanafun, Orogonam Federal Constituency in Akwa Ibom State. Mr. Speaker, I stand to second the motion as heavily moved by my colleague. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. That's have it. Yes, go ahead and present your motion.
Need to investigate and arrest the looming outbreak of epidemic deadly disease in Oyobi of Ori Council Ward in Obi local government of Benue State. Note that there is a serious outbreak of epidemic deadly disease in Oyobi of Ori Council Ward of Obi local government Benue State, which has claimed several lives of people already and left many others in coma with no hope of survival in various hospitals where they are admitted. Note further that Oyobi community of Obi local government has an estimated population of over 6,000 people and share common boundary with Ekpong Ainu, Opoma Ainu, and Ogege Idele in all of the local government of Benue State, respectively. The imminent and epidemic deadly disease, which is fast spreading like a wineweed, will engulf the area and claim lives of other innocent people. Note that the outbreak of the epidemic was reported by health officer and the chairman of the local government council on 29th of January 2020, and that the victims were said to have contracted the deadly disease after drinking water from River Oyaro in the area. Aware that despite the quick response and effort of His Excellency Governor Samuel Otom of Benue State, who has sent his commissioner and health officer to assess the situation, the death is still continue to increase on a deadly routine as the nature of epidemic is yet to be identified. Hence, enough cover measure has not been put in place to arrest the situation. Note that life of every citizen of Nigeria is sacrosanct. Hence, the primary purpose of every government is to provide welfare, good health, and security of life of the people and the property, which is in line with our international policy of World Health Organization and other international humanitarian protocols. Worry that there are inadequate medical facilities and personnel in Obi and Odu to take care of the looming health challenges of the people in the constituency, more particularly in affected areas. Concerned that the outbreak of the epidemic has caused economic stagnation and hardship of the people because of fear of contracting the unknown deadly disease while undertaking business venture. Observe that unless an urgent step is taken by this honorable house to arrest the rapid spread of the epidemic, which is imminent, many innocent people of Oduobi Federal Constituency have been immediately And
Order, please. Order, please.
Neighboring communities will lose their lives.
Silence, please.
Resolve, Mr. Speaker, to urge the federal government through the Federal Ministry of Health to send a medical expert to Oyobi in the council ward of the local government as well as in the local government to assess the situation with a view to arrest the ugly epidemic deadly disease. Urge the federal government to declare Oyobi unsafe and disaster area to settle until the area is safe. Provide this same borehole and other social infrastructure as well as medical facility, qualified medical personnel to the affected area. All the relevant health agencies to lend their support with a view to wipe out the epidemic in Oyobi in the council ward of the local government. Urge the Committee on Health Institutions to urgently liaise with the Federal Ministry of Health to take proactive steps to verse with the issue of epidemic outbreak in Oyobi or the council ward. Mr. Speaker, I move my motion.
Seconder? Yes, sir.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I am Honorable Chukuma Umoji, representing the good people of Agwata Federal Constituency. I rise to second the motion as moved by my honorable colleagues. I do second, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Sanson, go ahead and give us the synopsis of your own motion.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, this deadly disease started in January when people of that area went to drink water. That place is actually more of the fishermen, but because there is no borehole, there is no any means of drinking water except from the river. So the people have to go and fetch water from the river to drink. So, Mr. Speaker, by January this year, we found out that the sickness started with some few numbers of persons, to the number of 3 or 4. But when the chairman of the local government visited the area to assess the immediate cause of the sickness, it was found out that
silence, please.
Water, and since then they contacted this health disease, this sickness from there. And the number now, I can tell you, the number of people that have died right now is getting to 36, Mr. Speaker, as I can tell you today. So, Mr. Speaker, we found out that the Commissioner of Plenary said went there, and the Minister of Health, they went there. But, Mr. Speaker, up to now, they've not known the causes of that.
Members, please allow the presiding officer to concentrate.
For the fact that it was discovered that it's as a result of drinking water, but they've not known the causes of that sickness, Mr. Speaker. So, as a result of drinking water, if the sickness is started this year, we believe that the people have been drinking that water before. But we believe that, except this House, urge the federal government through the Federal Ministry of Health to interfere and the disease control to go there and to know the causes of this. Mr. Speaker, that community has a boundary with Ebonyi State. It had a community with Enugu. So it's important that we take this matter as a matter of urgent and serious importance for this House to enable the federal government to go and make sure that they provide this facility and to provide the cure and the costs of that sickness in order to arrest the sickness so that people can go out freely to do their business in fear of contacting these sicknesses. Mr. Speaker, you found out that even we are talking about coronavirus. People, when you take it here, people will say it's so and so, but it's important that we go and know the causes of this sickness in that area, so that we can ascertain the causes of this disease, Mr. Speaker. That people will not continue to die in that area again, Mr. Speaker. So I thank you. It's not that.
Ordinarily, this disaster-related motion, and it should not be subjected to debate too. But I allow you because you are no, I allow you. I will allow you.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, this motion is simply asking us to do a stitch in time. It is not even timely anymore because great number of people have been lost. And what the mover of this motion is asking is for Ministry of Health to intervene, because for something that started in January, February is quite rounding up as a month, and nothing,
Silence, please.
no
Silence,
change
please.
has happened.
Honourable members, please. Silence, please.
So if anybody would have listened to what the mover of the motion asked, and the introduction as a basis for his motion, he said that even though the Ministry of Health and the Commissioner of Health at the state level had tried to intervene, no change has happened. And the cause of this disease is not known at the moment. When corona disease first started, it started with one person. And today, it's spreading the whole of coming into Africa through Egypt. The mover of this motion also made it known of the boundary between Enugu, boundary between Ebonyi. And we should be working hard before it exceeds this environment that it is at the moment. And as we speak, the same water that people presume to have caused what is happening is still being used by the community. The health issue is a concurrent issue in our constitution, and what he's asking is the Federal Ministry of Health and the executive of the federal government to intervene in this matter and save the life of the people who have not died, and also protect people from contacting it by interacting or doing business with this community. With this, Mr. Speaker, I support this motion, and I urge my dear colleagues to show support so that quick intervention should be done to this situation. I so submit, Mr. Speaker.
Privilege? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is James Abiodun Faliki. I represent Ikeja Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, as a matter of privilege, sir, I don't know whether we are safe in this chamber. I think we need to stop him from coming to the chamber pending when we determine because of the crisis. Don't go and sit down there.
Well, leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I remain Honorable Ndudi Godwin Elbelo, and I represent the good people of our Church Federal Constituency. In support of the matter of privilege brought by Honorable Faleke, I totally agree that Honorable Baga and Honorable Sam should be quarantined pending the determination of the issue that is ravaging for how many days? For 14 days. Pending when federal government will come to them and be able to be sure that they are not infected. Because they are from there, he's visited the place where those people are being affected, and he's sitting by us. We are sure that it is coronavirus. And for that, you say you don't know the disease. Mr. Speaker, is a very serious matter. He should be quarantined until the determination of the issue. You can see Faleke has left his seat, and he's been pointing at me, pushing me. I have to put off this thing as soon as after speaking. I so submit, Mr. Speaker.
Well, respected colleagues, let us not lose aside. Today we are on a life, and it's not in our own interest the noise we are giving out while our colleagues are speaking. I want to beg Honorable Maki, please.
Resume your seat.
Please, I want to beg of you that we should conduct ourselves in the way and manner we have set for ourselves. It it is not in our end, it is the background noise we are giving out. And on a serious note, I want to say that if you have identified diseases in your own area that are not yet confirmed, and with the visit of the Federal Minister of Health officials, from what I had, State Ministry, thank you. I think, and the death toll is about what number now? 36. It's cause for concern. It's a serious matter. And I want to say that we should do our best, and that's the reason why we should listen to our colleagues in silence. The concern raised by my colleagues, of course, is natural. And I think you also need to go for further checks. Thank you. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Motion referred to 11 committees of the House. Yes, Honorable Kalu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Honorable colleagues. I rise under Order 8 Rule 5 on personal explanation. Just to give compliments to the House for what happened yesterday, seeking the leave of the Honorable Speaker to enable me thank you so well with my committee, and also the leave of the Speaker to ask my committee members who are here to stand up to thank the House as a matter of courtesy for how you supported us yesterday in the launching of the magazine, the unveiling of the magazine that everybody is talking about in Nigeria at the moment, right from the executive to the judiciary to all the citizens of this country. It was because of you that we were successful. It was because you believe in this project. That was why we succeeded. If you were not interested, we wouldn't have gotten to the level that we got yesterday. And I beg on you as well to give us your support as we sustain this project. It's high time we change our bastardized image before Nigerians by speaking for ourselves, not relying on third-party reportage that is commercialized. I thank you very much for your support yesterday. Members of my committee, are you here? Some of you, can you stand up, please? Can you rise? The members of the committee, we are very grateful. Thank you, and God bless you.
I only allow you to give an explanation, not to recognize every member here contributed to the success of this very, very important event. So the glory goes to the entire House, and I want to say thank you and thank you to all colleagues. Thank you very much. Okay. Respected colleagues, the business of the day is presentation of 19 bills. I now invite the clerk to read their short titles.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control Act, Amendment Bill 2020, first reading. National Food Technology Development Agency Bill 2020, first reading. Federal College of Food Technology, ICO, Establishment Bill 2020, first reading. National Orientation Commission, Establishment Bill 2020, first reading. Federal College of Education Technical, ICO, Establishment Bill 2020, first reading. National Youth Service Corps Act Amendment Bill 2020, first reading. Environmental Health and Safety Agency Establishment Bill 2020, first reading. Voting Rights of Nigerian Citizens Living Outside Nigeria Bill 2020, first reading. National Primary Education Commission, etc. Act Amendment Bill 2020, first reading. National Religious Equity Commission Assessment Bill 2020, first reading. Federal University of Technology Asaba Assessment Bill 2020, first reading. Civil Society Regulatory Commission Assessment Bill 2020, first reading. Chartered Institute of Financial and Investment Analysis of Nigeria Bill 2020, first reading. Federal College of Education Monochi, Assembly Bill 2024 reading. National Agency for Population Programs and Development Act, Amendment Bill 2024 reading. National Institute for Labor Studies Act, Amendment Bill 2024 reading. National Agency for the Great Green Wall Act, Amendment Bill 2024 reading. Compulsory Treatment and Care for Victims of Gunshots Act, Amendment Bill 2020, first reading. Nigerian Entrepreneurship Development Bank, Amendment Bill 2020, first reading.
Very respected distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is the commencement of debate on the general principle of a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Federal Polytechnic Orogun Delta State and for related matters standing in the name of the House Leader. All members will recall that the bill was transmitted to from the Senate seeking concurrence of the House and read the first time on Thursday, 13 February 2020. I now invite the Leader of the House to move that the bill be read second time. Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable members. I rise to move, Mr. Speaker, that this bill presented to the House by the Senate for concurrence, Mr. Speaker, is read for the second time. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I so move.
Seconder. Yes, Kabir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My honorable colleagues, I remain Honorable Kabir Idris, member representing Kura Madobu Garum Malang. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Kano State. I rise to support the motion heavily moved by our leader. I so support, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I rise to further read through this bill, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal Polytechnic Orogun Delta State and for related matters, HB 642, as presented by the Leader of the Senate, Mr. Speaker. I think it's a bill that is straightforward for an establishment of an institution that I believe will also promote our educational pursuit in the country. Honorable members, Mr. Speaker, I would like members to just concurrent in the spirit of harmony and in the spirit of bicameral legislatorship between the Senate and this honorable House. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to further discuss this bill. Thank you.
You want to contribute?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Distinguished honorable colleagues, I remain Honorable Osai Nicholas Osai. I represent local party federal constituency of Delta State. Mr. Speaker, my argument against this bill is anchored on three principles. Principle one, our order 18, sub-rule 36, 1. 2,
read the order, please. Okay.
Section 14 and Section 15 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And the essential, which was supplied to this honorable House by NIS, Essentials of Nigerian 1999 Constitution as amended. Mr. Speaker, I start from Section 14. With your kind permission, I will read. Section 14, sub 3. It said the composition of government of the Federation and of its agencies and the conduct of its affairs shall be carried out in such a manner as to reflect the character of Nigeria and the need to promote national unity and also to command national loyalty, thereby ensuring there shall be no
predominance of persons for a few states or from a few ethnic groups or other sectional groups in that government or in any of its agencies. Subsection 4. The composition of government of a state, a local government council, or any of its agencies, of which this bill, which is a parastatal if established, of such government or council, and the conduct of the affair or council or such agency shall be carried out in such a manner as to recognize the diversity of the people within its area of authority and the need to promote a sense of belonging and loyalty among the people of federation. Subsection 15.
Excuse me, Wase, I want to say the relevancy of what they are doing. For instance, you are talking of federal character, and section 14.4 that you quoted, the one you just finished, has no relevance as far as this matter is concerned. It is referring to composition of government at the state level. Excuse me, this is a committee I chaired for close to 8 years, and I know where you are quoting. Where you are quoting section 14.4, talking about the relevancy of composition of governance affairs. We are not talking about recruitment. If you are talking about institutions, this is another academic institution that is not to say we are now putting all the institutions in Nigeria in Delta or in Jos. We are looking for spread across the states of federation. No, you are trying to mislead the house. That's why I'm here, to guide you. I'm supposed to guide you. No, I'm supposed to guide you. No, you are quoting wrongly. Thank you.
Now there are issues. There are issues. I quoted 3 key areas. Yeah.
Use my own. Use my own. Chair. Use my own.
Mr. Speaker, I'm coming on order 12, Rule 4. Mr. Speaker, Rule 4, Subsection 1. On the order for second reading of a bill being read, a motion may be made that the bill be now read a second time, and a debate may arise covering the general merits and principles of the bill. At this point, no member can speak against any bill at second reading, but rather speak on the merits and the general principles of the bill. I assume.
Point of order, carry. Sustain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is our duty to talk about the principles, that is advantage and disadvantage of a bill. But this bill must be anchored upon the constitutional provisions. So when I bring issues of constitutional provisions, it is anchored also on the principles of advantage and disadvantage of a bill. To that extent, Mr. Speaker, I still rely on the foundation of what I have raised among the 10 principles. And one of them I will read, Mr. Speaker. The federal character principle rests on the spirit of equity, justice, and fairness. That's what our Constitution says. On this ground, Mr. Speaker, speaking on the bill correctly, I think I should be allowed and protected by Mr. Speaker.
Protected, but then you should be guided. You see, you should not use language to confuse members or to attempt to confuse members. What you are reading is far from the principle of the bill. It's not consonant with that. You are supposed to speak about the merits and demerits of the bill. That's not the merits.
Mr. Speaker, why I speak against this bill is simple. My fellow colleagues, distinguished honorables. Mr.
In support and against.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution gave us the opportunity to regulate how we deliberate on issues on this floor. That is the more reason why we have Order 12, Rule 4, subsection 1, and we said you can only speak on the merits and demerits together. You can take the merits and speak, and the merits to speak with them, or put them together and speak with them on the general principles. We are talking about the general principles of this issue, not somebody speaking against a matter that has gone through a chamber of the National Assembly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Distinguished honorable colleagues. Mr. Speaker, the reason why, honorable colleagues, I'm against this bill are as follows. You see, always what I said is that before you bring any bill to this house, it must align with the Constitution. Before you bring any bill to this house, it must align with the Constitution. So I'm questioning the foundation of the bill based on the constitutional provision. And I have right to question a bill based on the foundation of the bill. It is on this ground, Mr. Speaker, I question this bill on 3 key foundations. And one of the 3 key foundations which Constitution has provided is rest of equity, fairness. And that is what this House believes. Mr. Speaker, the Orogo Polytechnic bill, you are setting up a bill to a senatorial zone that have already a polytechnic. PTI, everybody knows about it. You are setting up a polytechnic for a senatorial zone who has a petroleum university, which is a federal university. And we are talking of fairness and equity. You are talking of a senatorial zone that have Delta State University, and you are talking of equity. You are talking of a senatorial zone that also have polytechnic, and you are talking of federal equity. Mr. Speaker, it will interest you that this house is being powered by IPP generator from my constituency, this place, and I have no light. It will interest you that the IPP from Opai is also supplied to Aso Rock by my constituency, and I have no light, and I have no higher institution.
Honorable Sai, you know, Honorable Sai, I think you should be guided, please. No, I'm being very fair to you. I'm being very fair to you. Please take your seat. Please take your seat. I say, please take your seat. I insist that is not among the merits and demerits of this bill. Everybody knows the importance of education in this country. And by the number of out-of-school children that were clamoring and asking that it should be given, I think if we can establish more and more institutions, and if the government can fund it, so be it. We were together with you in Harvard. Harvard alone, that district, they have over 200 universities. For God's sake. You want to gag us that you have an infrastructure in Nigeria that is not relevant? We refer to Committee on Power. We are thinking about giving our people education. I will now put the question because it's a very straightforward. Those in favor of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Please be guided. I say be guided. No, you can't come here. You can't. Colleagues, please take your seat. The most important thing I want to... Clerk, please read the long title of the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, The bill for now to provide for establishment of the Federal Polytechnic, Orogun, Delta State, and for related matters. Second reading.
Bill referred to committee of the whole. Yes. Forget about this matter. Let's solve the matter. Respected colleagues, the second order of the day is a commencement of a debate on the general principle of the bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Federal College of Education in Kebbi State and for related matters. Standing in the name of in the name of House Leader, honorable members will recall that the bill was transmitted to the Senate seeking for concurrence from the Senate seeking for concurrence of the House. The first time on Thursday, the bill was the first on Thursday, 30th January 2020, and I invite the leader of the House to move the bill the second time. Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable members. I rise once again to present before this honorable House as read a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Federal College of Education, ILO, Kebbi State, and for related matters, HB 643. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, this bill as presented for second reading is also before this honorable House for debate. And going forward, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I would like to say that while bills of this nature are presented to this honorable House, and that in the spirit of our bicameral existence as institution, as a legislative institution, some of these things, of course, may have some...
He is supposed to move the motion first, before leading the debate. No.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker, honorable members. Sorry, I was trying to address the earlier point, but I remain guided. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I move that this bill be read the second time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Seconder, Chairman Rules.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Ahmed from Fulata. I represent Plenary, Krika Sama, Mr. Speaker from the Gao State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion heavily moved by the House Leader. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The answer lead the debate. Sorry, present the motion. Lead the debate.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, like I had already started, I want to believe that the establishment of institutions of education like this, especially in some of our remote places, is a good subject and is an issue that we must always encourage. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I also wanted to draw the attention of my honorable colleagues, members of this House, that when we have issues, especially relating to bills to be presented for concurrence here on the floor of the House, and that in the spirit of our bicameral existence as an institution, some of these things, Mr. Speaker, apart from our legislative process on the floor, we have the administrative aspect, the administrative angle of the leadership of House of Representatives, where we have issues related to maybe sentiments of our constituents, sentiments related to our constituencies. I want to implore members to please address such sentiments through the administrative component of the leadership of the House of Representatives. While we have an issue or we have a case to pursue with the Senate, obviously, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, we are duty bound to do that, because this is but an independent chamber that can ply its own way when we have something that is derogatory to the existence of our House as an institution as well. But in this case, Mr. Speaker, I want to believe that Federal College of Education, ILO, when established, will cover the interest of so many neglected Nigerians in the aspect of education, because this place that the college is located in Kebbi State, Mr. Speaker, I am from the Northwest. I know clearly it's about 250 kilometers away from any nearby federal institution or even a state educational institution. So setting an institution in this place will do a lot of good to our people, to the people of Kebbi State and to the people of the northwestern part of this country, especially where this particular institution will be located in ILO. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I want to quickly, in want of time, I want to quickly round up to say that members should rise to support this bill because it will create a great deal of good to our people in Kebbi State and in Illo as an immediate constituency and immediate location of this particular federal institution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, honorable members.
Colleagues, you still want to contribute? 1 minute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Osai. Come and bow. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Bello Kaoje, member representing Bagudosuru Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am from Kebbi State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I rise to urge this House to support this bill as it states to further facilitate equality learning among people of my state, more especially the people of my own federal constituency, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of the main reasons we needed this institution in Kebbi State, in the entire Kebbi State, Mr. Speaker, we doesn't have Federal College of Education in Kebbi State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, in 2017, out of 78,378 people who sat for National Common Entrance Examination in Kebbi State, at last entering of 63 candidates for the 2017 May-June West African School Certificate Examination, Mr. Speaker. The state placed at 32nd position out of 36 states in the country. Mr. Speaker, the reason is we doesn't have the teachers training institute in Kebbi State, so it's one of the reasons we needed that school, Mr. Speaker, in the Kebbi State. Mr. Speaker, on this note, I urge this honorable House to allow this bill to pass at the second reading. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Respected colleagues, I think we need to save time because there are so many items on our order paper, including some supplementary ones that are about coming. So in view of that, I want to beg for crave for indulgence and to put the question. Those in favor of the bill, bear second, say aye. Those against say nay. That's have it. Clerk is invited to read a long title for the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, the bill for an act to provide for establishment of Federal College of Education in Kebbi State and for related matters. Second reading.
Bill referred to Committee on Basic Education, on Tertiary Education. Sorry, Committee of the Whole, I suppose. Respectfully, the third order of the day is a commencement of a debate on general principle of bill for an act to provide for establishment of Modibo Adamawa University, Yola, and for related matters, standing now of honorable standing now of our House leader. Honorable members recall that the bill was transmitted from the Senate, seeking for concurrence of the House, and read the first time on Thursday, 30th January 2020, and I invite the leader to move that the bill be read the second time. Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Clerk. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable members, I rise once again to move that a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Modibo Adamawa University, Yola, and for related matters, HB 647, presented by the leader of the Senate for concurrence to this honorable House, be read the second time. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Seconder, Honorable Idris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My respected colleagues, I am Idris Ahmed, member representing Funtua Pendime Federal Constituency of Katsina State. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to move to support this very important motion, a bill for an act to establish the Federal University of Agriculture and Technology, Funtua, Katsina State. I so second.
Please lead the debate.
Mr. Speaker, this bill, like the two others, is presented to this honorable House for concurrence. And when read for the second time, Mr. Speaker, I want to believe that we seek the support of members on the floor of this House to enhance and allow for the establishment of the Modibo Adama University, Yola, and for related matters. One other aspect that may be different from the two other bills, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, about this bill is that the university is right now in existence. But the legal framework has to be addressed, it has to be reviewed, reconsidered by the Parliament constitutionally, so that the university could take up properly, and all other issues and other advantages accruing to establishment of its nature nationwide can also go to Modibo Adama University. So in my view, Mr. Speaker, this is like a straightforward bill that only requires the support and the mandate of this House to concur with the Senate so that we can provide a reviewed legal framework for the existence of an already existing university in Yola, Adamawa State. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to believe this is our responsibility, and I think Nigerians will look up to us to make sure that our responsibility is being carried to the latter. It's an existing institution, like I said, and let us create this legal framework to cover it. Let us enhance this legal framework to protect this institution so that the good jobs expected of institutions like Modibo Adama University in Yola could be carried out appropriately for the benefit of our people. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, thank you so much for listening, and I hope members will give credence to this bill for passage. Thank you.
Numbers.
Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Abdurazak Saad Namdas. I represent the good people of Danye, Jada, Tongoma, Ibelwa. I am from Adamawa State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this very important bill. Just like the leader just argued, this university, Modibo Adama University, Yola, is already in existence. All it required is just a legal backing to enable it exist officially as a university. Mr. Speaker, the addition I want to make here is that apart from the fact that the university has been exist for several years, this university wants to also to be converted to a conventional university. It's already a university of technology. The technological aspect will still remain in the university, but we would also like to have the conventional part, and it will still maintain its name. Mr. Speaker, we know that we have University of Maiduguri as part of the catchment areas, but because of the challenge of security, we would like this university to be established so that it can be a conventional university, so that our brothers and sisters will also apply to this university. And the university has been doing quite very well, and therefore I will urge my colleagues here to also support the establishment of this university and to give it a legal backing. I submit, Mr. Speaker. I pray that my colleagues will support this bill. Thank you so much.
The question now, the bill will be read second time. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. That's have it. Clerks invited to read the long title of the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for now to provide for establishment of Modibo Adama University, Yola, and for related matters. Second reading.
Bill referred to Committee of the Whole. Respected colleagues, the fourth order of the day is the commencement of debate on the general principle of bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Federal University of Agriculture and Technology, Funtua, Katsina State, and for related matters, standing in the name of the House Leader. All members will recall the bill was transmitted from the Senate for concurrence of the House and read the first time on Thursday, 30 January 2020. I now invite the leader to move that the bill be read the second time. Leader.
Thank you, honorable members. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that a bill for an act
to provide for the establishment of Federal University of Agriculture and Technology, Puntua, in Katsina State, and for related matters, HB 645, as presented by the Senate for concurrence to this Honorable House. Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill be read the second time.
Yes. Lado. Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, Abubakar Lado Suleja is my name, and I'm representing Suleja Gura Ratapa Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from the Power State, Niger. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support and to second the motion as moved by the leader of the House. I so second. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Leader, I need a debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable members, this bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Federal University of Agriculture and Technology, Puntua, in Katsina State, Mr. Speaker, like the three other bills, it's a bill that is brought here for the support of members of this honorable House, the House of the Nigerian people. Mr. Speaker, I want to recall and maybe refer to honorable members that this bill to me is a special one because it's a bill that is going to establish an institution of an agricultural research to train our youth in the area of agriculture and in a place that is most appropriate as far as the Northwest is concerned. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, you all know Puntua. Puntua is in the southern part of Katsina, which actually is the base, the food basket of Katsina State. It also supports places like Zaria where there is no enough food. It also supports places, I believe, in Zamfara and even beyond Nigerian shores, even to far Niger. So I want to believe that establishing an institution of this nature will really promote our agricultural pursuit, and it also provide ground for our youth to be trained in this special aspect of economic development. Agriculture being the mainstay of this country, Mr. Speaker, if promoted in terms of creating institutions of this nature, certainly Nigeria will be proud of institutions like this. Let me also use this opportunity to also translate to the members of the House that about 3 months ago, Mr. Speaker, sorry to make reference to this, before I was taken out of this floor by a competent court of jurisdiction, I had a cause to represent the Speaker in an empowerment program of one of us here, Right Honorable Muntari Danduze, who coincidentally comes from that area. Mr. Speaker, I could remember by way of remarks the traditional rulers in that area. I could remember the stakeholders, political stakeholders in that area. I can also remember vividly that the youth of that area were given the opportunity to speak on the floor on that event. And I remember they gave me a message to deliver to the Speaker of the House of Representatives that they yearn for this institution. They want an agricultural institution to be sited in their own place. I have done that through the Speaker, and I want to use this opportunity, being discussing this matter now on the floor of the House, to plead with the members that the message of the youth from that area, the message of farmers from that area, is that this House, the House of Nigerian people, should give room for the establishment of this institution so that they will take advantage of their natural disposition to really push their own kids into this institution to study agriculture in a manner that will promote agriculture in Nigeria and will make our own kind of agriculture as competing and as vibrant, as robust as every other kind of agriculture that is being practiced world over. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I want to believe this is a bill that we must also support. When we support this bill, we are giving room for our youth to be educated in that important and sensitive sector. When this bill is passed and this university is established, Mr. Speaker, it will also create rooms for employment for employing some of our unemployed youth. We have a lot of them who can now go into these institutions as staffers, and I believe employment will also be addressed when this thing is established. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, and plead with you that the message of the people I have taken from Untua be carried on the floor of this House by passing this important bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And you say.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My respected colleagues, I am Danduze Montar Mohammed, member representing Puntua Tandime Federal Constituency, and by the leave of the Speaker and this House, I am the Chairman Committee of agri production. And also, I want to use this opportunity to thank my leader for the message given to him when he was in my empowerment program. And I want to assure you that Funtua is a gateway to most of the northern part of the country. They are living in Funtua. It's a very cosmopolitan town that connects Nigeria from all angles. And School of Basic and Remedial Studies is already established by Ahmed University. And considering the fact of this bill, I want to appeal to my colleagues, and as a matter of fact, this bill is timely and also is very potential for the economic development of this country. And considering the fact of the diversification program and also the closure of border, which we need to feed ourselves in the next 2 to 3 years, this bill is timely, and I believe, considering the support of the people of Funtua in terms of economic development, even when British were back in history, even when British came to Nigeria, they established their settlement in Funtua, and that is where they have, even in their archive in London, that Funtua is the best place where you can establish any business. That is why we are prosperous, we are industrialized, and I want to appeal to the Speaker and my respected colleagues to support this very important bill and give it a light of the day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, my name is Sada Soli Jibia, representing Jibia Kaita Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, the creation of this institution in that location within the territory of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is the most advantageous and the most prosperous contribution to education in this country. Why did I say so? Mr. Speaker, creating this institution will promote sound scientific training as a foundation for development of agriculture in Nigeria. And the location of that institution in Funtua will have access to other agricultural institutions nearby, like Zaria. There are a lot of research institutions that will relate with that university and promote and generate more ideas, create more research opportunities in the development of agricultural technologies in this country. So it is not a misplaced opportunity to create that university within that location. And more so, within Funtua area and catchment areas, you will find 26,000 households engaged in cotton production. With the creation of that university in that location, it will enhance the research, develop more new seeds, and then create more opportunities for families, and then it will improve the economy of those people. So it is not only, also it will increase our GDP. So Mr. Speaker, we appeal to our members. It is a federal university, therefore the catchment of that university is Federal Republic of Nigeria. I so contribute, Mr.
Okay. Respected colleagues, the question now that the bill will be read second. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk is invited to read the long title of the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill is an act to provide for establishment of Federal University of Agriculture and Technology, Funtua, Katsina State, and for related matters. Second reading.
Bill referred to Committee of the Whole. Respected colleagues, the fifth order of the day is the commencement of debate on the principle of an act for an act to repeal the Nigerian Steel Development Authority Act Cap N134 Laws and Federation of Nigeria 2004 and enact the Nigerian Iron and Steel Development Authority Bill and for related matters. Standing now Honorable Olawi Rahim Tunji, all members will recall that bill was read the first time on Tuesday, 16 July 2019, and I invite Honorable Tunji to move that the bill be read second time. Honorable Tunji.
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Tunji is not on the floor. I move that the bill be stepped down by the Leader of the House. I so move.
Stepped down by the Leader of the House. Respected colleagues, the sixth order of the day is a motion. It's a motion on reconsideration of outstanding bills from the Proceeding Assembly pursuant to Order 12, Rule 16 of Standing Order of the House of Representatives, standing no Honorable Abubakar Flatter. Flatter is invited to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Abubakar Flatter. I represent Berniwa, Krika Sama, Gudi Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Jigawa State. A reconsideration of outstanding bills from the Proceeding Assembly. Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria Repeal and Enactment Bill 2019 HB 69, Witness Prevention Program Bill 2019 HB 207, Companies and Allied Matters Bill 2019 HB 544, Federal University of Technology Auchi Establishment Bill 2019 HB 527, and Chartered Institute of Finance and Control of Nigeria Establishment Bill 2020 HB 680. House notes that pursuant to Order 12, Rule 16 of the Standing Orders of the House of Representatives, bills passed by the Presiding Assembly and forwarded to the Senate for concurrence, for which no concurrence was made or negatived, or passed by the Senate and forwarded to the House, for which no concurrence was made or negatived, or which were passed by the National Assembly and forwarded to the President for assent, but for which assent or withholding thereof was not communicated before the end of the tenure of the Assembly. The House may resolve that such bills, upon being regazetted or clean copies circulated, be reconsidered in the Committee of the Whole without being commenced de novo. Also notes, the aforementioned bills were passed by the Presiding Assembly and forwarded to the President for assent, but for which assent or withholding thereof was not communicated before the end of the tenure of the last Assembly. Aware that the bills were regazetted as House Bills 69, 207, 544, 527, 680 respectively, and read the first time. Resolves to commit the bills to the Committee of the Whole. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Seconder. Chairman for Foreign Affairs. Sorry, I'll get back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Yusuf Buba Yakub. I represent Gombe Home Federal Constituency. I rise to second the bill moved by Honorable Flatter. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You see, the one that they are interested in is not the one you gave me is from Kuruka. No. What? The next order of the day is a motion on need for the federal government to grant operational right to the Bayelsa State Airport, standing now on Ndidi Umililu. And Umililu is invited with the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I remain Honorable Ndidi Godwin Elmelu, and I represent the good people of Aniocho Shimili Federal Constituency. I'm from Delta State. The need for the federal government to grant operational right to Bayelsa Airport, standing in the name of Ndidi Elmelu, Gideon Gwani, Honorable Peter Apatasin, Honorable Kiruka Onyejocha, Honorable Toby Okechukwu, Honorable Fred Obua, Honorable Sajis. Oh, good. Yeah, I The House notes that in February 2019, Bayelsa State Government completed the construction of its international airport, which has a runway of 3.7 kilometers, one of the longest in the country, with the capacity of providing about 2,000 formal and informal jobs for the indigenes of the state and other users, and non-indigenes. Further notes that the airport was constructed with a whopping sum of 60 billion naira of taxpayers' money, and it has some of the best and latest equipment in the aviation industry. Aware that since February 2019, when the airport was completed to date, the National Civil Aviation Authority is yet to grant the airport operational rights and permit for a smooth takeoff, thereby causing the indigenes untold hardships and massive revenue loss to the state and the nation. Aware that the continued denial of a permit has stalled the rapid development which the airport is meant to bring, depriving about 2,000 indigenes of the state employment opportunities. Concerned that traveling to and from Bayelsa is to either through Omagwa in Rivers State or Samumbakwe Airport in Imo State, which takes nearly 2 hours, while completely unnecessary and a waste of time and scarce resources since Bayelsa Airport has been completed. Cognizant that if urgent action is not taken to grant operational rights to the airport, Bayelsans will continue to suffer and difficulty of movement in and out of the state, deny the indigenes of the over 2,000 jobs opportunities as well as business opportunities. A functional airport will be availing the state. Result: urge federal government to direct NCAA and FAN to immediately grant operational rights to the Bayelsa Airport. Mandate the House Committee on Aviation to ensure compliance and report back to the House within 4 weeks for further legislative action. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, sir.
I remain Honorable Benjamin Chinedu Obidigwe, Anambra East and West Federal Constituency, Anambra State. Mr. Speaker, I stand to second the motion ably moved by Minority Leader. Thank you.
Colleagues, this is an infrastructure motion, so I now put the question. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. That's have it. Motion referred to 11 committees of the House. Colleagues, it's now time for our break. We'll come back. Is it the opinion of the House that we should continue? Thank you. Maybe to 1:30. To 1:30. Thank you. The spirit colleagues. The next order of the day is a motion and need to dredge the Anambra River Basin to avert flooding of communities in Anambra, Enugu, and Kogi State, citing the name of Honorable Chinedu Obidigwe. Honorable Obidigwe is invited with the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Chinedu Benjamin Obidigwe, representing the good people of Anambra East and West Federal Constituency in the Green Chamber. Mr. Speaker, my motion is on the need to dredge Anambra River to avert flooding of communities in Anambra, Enugu, and the Kogi states. The House notes that Anambra River had depth which enable it to contain large volume of water emptying into it from various rivers and tributaries during the rainy season without any recorded incident of overflowing east banks to ravage the coastal area. The House recalled that in 2012, heavy rainfall caused floods to occur, which ravaged the coastal plains and caused water current to leach the coastal soils, and in the process moved the sand.
Honorable Francis, take your seat.
And in the same time,
Honorable, take your seat.
And move the sand into Anambra river beds, thereby making the river depth to become shallow. As a result of which, whenever large volume of water empties into the river, it overflows its east bank into the coastal communities, wreaking havoc on homes, schools, worship places, farmlands, and other valuable places. The House are aware that the yearly overflowing of the river overwhelms Enugu Otu, Mpunando, Ezeagulu Otu, Umuezanam, Iftanam, Ezianam, Nzam, Olumbanasa, Umudenze communities in Anambra State, Oto, Iga, Oglugu, and Asaba communities in Enugu State. Then Odeke, Eshon, Obale communities in Kogi State. Destroying farmlands and households items which worth billions of naira. Also, the House notes that economic losses to the annual flooding of those communities as a result of shallowness of Anambra River depth cannot be compared with the cost of dredging the river to reclaim its normal depth, which will enable it to contain large volume of water whenever it emptied into the river, and as obtainable in the past before the situation we are into. Consonant to the dredging of Anambra River will provide an alternative route for evacuation of oil, which is currently being explored in the Anambra Basin. The House resolves to urge the Federal Minister of Works, Transport and Housing, and the National Inland Waterways Authority, NIWA, to initiate the process of dredging Anambra River to get it back to its normal depth, to contain large volume of water that is emptied into it during the rainy season. Also, the House also urged the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to continue to support in providing relief materials to all these affected communities that they are totally into hardship. Number 3, the House mandates the communities on water resources, committees on water resources, harbor and waterways, works and appropriation to ensure provision of funds for the dredging of Anambra River in the by 2021 budget. So avert this kind of ugly yearly disaster being witnessed by our people. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Seconder.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My name is Okudele Christopher Ezawanko. I represent the good people of Orumba North and South Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Anambra State, the light of the nation. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the motion moved by Honorable Chinedu Benjamin Obidigwe. I so second.
Mr. Never motion, so I now put a question. Amendment? Okay, Honorable Chiloka, sorry.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Obina Chidoka, representing Idemili North, Idemili South Federal Constituency of Anambra State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, you may wish to remember that in 2012, as you mentioned, and in 2015, when this flood happened across the length and breadth of Nigeria, the federal government had instituted a fund to be given to the states which had been affected by the flood. if you remember, Anambra State was conspicuously omitted from that list of states to benefit from that fund. And as you can see how much we lose perennially from flooding. So my amendment is that Anambra State must or should be included in the states to benefit from that funding. And once that is done, of course it's regressive. They should go back and, of course, pay them the ones they have missed out on. That's my amendment, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Honorable Ifeanyi Chudi Moma. I represent the good people of Ihiala Federal Constituency. I'm from Anambra State. I rise to second the amendment moved by Honorable Obina Chidoka. Thank you.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those against say nay. That's have it. Those in favor of the motion as amended say aye. Those against say nay. That's have it. Motion referred to 11 committees of the House. Respected colleagues, the next order of the day is a motion on need to provide leadership support mechanism for teaming youths in Nigeria. Sending Honorable Karu Simon Elisha. Honorable Elisha is invited into the motion.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Karu Simon Elisha. I represent the people of Kaltungo Shongom Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am from Gombe State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move the motion on the need to provide leadership support mechanism for the teeming youths in Nigeria. The House notes that the youth population is the greatest asset of any nation, as they constitute the socio-economic and political leadership that forms a capital base for the development and sustenance of the country's present and future generations. Also notes that without adequate leadership development mechanism, the country's future leadership may remain in deficit, since the youth serve as a good measure of the extent to which the country can reproduce and sustain itself. Aware of the need to integrate the youth population into the mainstream leadership and consequently provide legislative and policy frameworks to ensure leadership skills among the youth. Also aware that although different national policies on youth development exist, they are currently insufficient to cater for the current youth bulge and the growing youth population and organizations, non-governmental organizations and student bodies. Concerned that the current youth development structures have become grossly inadequate, and as a result, some have immigrated outside the shores of the country to find greener pastures, thereby dissipating the country's human capital potentials. Resolve: urge the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports to review and expand current youth centers to cater for the growing social needs of the youth. Mandate the Committee on Civil Societies and Development Partners to liaise with development partners and relevant ministries and agencies to support the design of leadership training models and the establishment of youth leadership development centers across the 6 geopolitical zones to bridge the leadership gap among the growing youth population. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Seconder. Yes, Karu. Sorry, FCT. FCT is not going to be fair.
Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Mika Johanna Jiba, a member representing the good people of Abuja Municipal and Area Council, Federal Constituency, FCT, I'm from Abuja. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion moved by my honorable colleague. Mr. Speaker, I say second.
Simon, in 1 minute, give us a synopsis of the motion. In 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for this opportunity. This motion is has a futuristic appeal that requires that we act now. If you look at the current social issues we have around the country, from insecurity issues to other matters that has bedeviled this country, is largely perpetrated by young people. And it is an indication to actually make the leadership to look at the current population in the country and consider building certain structures that will safeguard the future from further loom into social problems. Mr. Speaker, it is no longer news that we have more people, more of Nigeria's population within the ranges of 0 to 14, which is about 43% of Nigeria's population, whereas the ages of 15 to 24 is about 33%, and then 19% constitutes 25 to 54. What it means is that Nigeria's population is younger than 55 years of age. This tells us that there is more need for the country to consider building structures that support the mechanism to build leadership development among the younger population of the country. If you consider executive and strategic leadership forms of development that the country has in place, for example, NIBS and so on, most of the people who are trained in strategic leadership are people who are far above the age of 60. People at the level of 15, level 15 in the government, level 16, and usually have less than 5 years to spend in the government. But when we consider building leadership institutions to support the leadership mechanism at a younger level, we will have more young people who will grow within the system and support the leadership of this country. Mr. Speaker, I call on other members of the House to support this motion to advance the leadership capacity and potency of Nigeria. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The fellow colleagues, this is a very straightforward motion. I want to beg that we put the question. However, I have two amendments here before me. One from Honorable Fatoba. Honorable Fatoba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Shola Fatoba, member representing Nado Ekiti, reporting fellow the Federal Constituency. I'm from Ekiti State. Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues, I rise to move an amendment to this particular motion, heavily moved by my colleagues. The amendment is to urge the Federal Ministry of Education to incorporate or included the leadership courses into the nation's university curriculum, sir. Thank you. So move.
Any seconder? Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My honorable colleagues, I remain Honorable Kabiru Idris, member representing Fura Madobugaram Malam. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support these very important amendments. I so support, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those against say nay. That's have it. Please, I beg you not to use microphone again. Please. I have another one from Honorable Kabir Ahmed. But I want to beg that what you have written here is not amendment. So try to make it in the form of amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Kabir Ahmadu, member representing Gusau Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am from Zamfara State. Mr. Speaker, my amendment is just that I want to add to our results that since the motion is talking about the leadership mechanism to our youth, I think there is need for us to add NYSC into our results, considering the scheme comprises of graduates, which are mainly youths from our tertiary institutions. So I think there is need for us to add to our prayers, there is need to add NYSC to our prayers. Mr. Speaker, this is only what I want to amend.
To couch it in such a way such that when the resolution is going out, it will carry the exact content of what you want to move if the House is to accept. That's what I'm saying. The literature you wrote here, you just say, you bring out the press. I don't know what's in your mind. So bringing out the prayers are supposed to be so that it will be properly captured and couched.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like I said, NYSC, considering the scheme comprises of graduates mainly from different tertiary institutions across the nation who can be best classified as future leaders and backbone on which well-being, progress and development of Nigeria will be based. And also, during the NYSC, the corpers are made it mandatory to partake in various programs that support youth development, leadership and vocational skills. Since all this is part of NYSC, I think there is need to add NYSC or to resolve in our prayers that NYSC there is need to be added in this motion. That's what I'm trying to bring in.
What exactly are we asking NYSC to do? That is what should come as a prayer.
What I'm trying the NYSC to do, Mr. Speaker, is to incorporate the leadership modules into the NYSC scheme. That's what I'm trying to say.
Seconder? Yes, my brother from Benue.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Joe Robert Onna. I represent the people of Kiwande and Uchungu. I'm from Benue State. I rise to second the motion, the amendment as ably moved by my colleague. I so second.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those against say nay. That's have it. Those in favor of the motion as amended say aye. Those against say nay. That's have it. Respected colleagues, the next order of the day is a motion on the rehabilitation of Abinsi Agasha to say Ali Ulfu Beji will carry roads. Signing over Benjamin is battling with the motion.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Benjamin Bem Zondo. I speak for the people of Makudi Guma. We are from Benue State. I'm also the representative of the teeming unemployed youths in the hallowed Green Chamber. I rise this afternoon to bring a motion on the need to rehabilitate the Abinse Agasha, Tulane, Tekyo, Anyi, Arufu, Beji Ukari Road. This motion is co-sponsored between me, myself, and Right Honorable Bande and Honorable Danjuma Shidi. The House notes that the Abinse Agasha Tulane, Tekyo, Anyi, Arufu, Beji Ukari Road is an interstate road constructed during the then Benue Plateau State, linking Benue Plateau with the then Gongola State. Also note that the 120-kilometer road is a trunk A federal road with a crossing point across the river Kasnala at Tulane in Guma local government area of Benue State. The road runs through federal constituencies in Benue State, Makudi Guma, and Ukum Logo Kasnala federal constituency in and then a federal constituency in Taraba State. And the road is essential in the conveyance of farm produce to the northeast and the north central states of Nigeria. The House observed that since the construction of the road in 1975, about 45 years ago, there has been no form of maintenance or reconstruction of the third section of the highway which links Guma and Logo local government areas of Benue State and Ukari local government area of Taraba State. Aware that the highway has deteriorated over the years with potholes in many parts, thus making it difficult for motorists to ply the road, thereby leaving communities and major settlements along the road like Agasha, Turen, Seabi, Tekyo, Ayiramo, Anyi, Arufu, Yoja, Begi, and Vase in Benue State and Ukari in Taraba State almost abandoned in spite of the high level of production of agricultural produce along the axis. Worried that the poor state of the road has paralyzed socio-economic activities, hitherto experienced in the settlement located along the highway, as armed robbers and kidnappers have taken over the once busy road, creating insecurity and economic hardship along the corridors. Cognizant that the residents of Guma and Logo in Benue State and Ukari in Taraba State, being major agrarian communities, need a road network for movement of people and farm produce to other parts of the country, particularly to the northeast zone where food is needed. Convinced that rehabilitation of the road will boost economic activities in the settlements located along the corridor of the highway, and will also drastically curtail the armed robbery and the incidences of kidnapping frequently experienced on the road. I therefore urge the House to resolve to 1. Urge the Federal Minister of Works and Housing to commence the rehabilitation of Abinte, Agasha Children Tekyo, Anyi, Arufu, Yojagbeji, Ukari Road. 2. Mandate the Committee on Works and Appropriations to include the reconstruction of the road in the 2021 intervention project or the 2021 budget estimate. And finally, to also mandate the Committee on Legislative Compliance to ensure implementation. I so move.
Colleagues, this is an infrastructure-related motion. Yes, sir. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Right Honorable Kabir Al-Asarurum. I represent Rano Kibi Abunkura Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am from Kano. I rise to support the motion ably moved by my colleague. I so second.
Colleagues, this is an infrastructure-related motion, so I now put the question. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. That's have it. Are we still going on break or we are proceeding? We should proceed? Thank you. The next order of the day is a motion on the deplorable condition of armed forces, police, and paramilitary barracks in Eti-Osa Federal Constituency, Lagos State, standing in the name of Ibrahim Babijide of Lubanu Kuro is invited into the motion. Not on the floor? Okay, sorry.
Mr. Speaker, leadership of the House, my colleagues, the press, and our guests, good afternoon. I am Representative Ibrahim Babajide of Banikoro, and I represent Eti-Osa Federal Constituency in the Center of Excellence, Lagos State. Mr. Speaker, sir, note that the Eti-Osa Federal Constituency embodies 19 various barracks, which includes Army, Navy, Air Force, Police, and the prisons. Aware that the various military and paramilitary barracks serves as a major pillar in the sustenance of our security and maintenance of peace in the country. Also aware that I embarked on a familiarization tour across the 19 barracks within that constituency, concerned with the deplorable and inhabitable condition of the structure within the various barracks. Further concerned with the lack of water supply and the likelihood of epidemic outbreak within these barracks and the entire Eti-Osa Federal Constituency due to environmental decay. I was appalled at the excess of decay when I saw the condition which members of our military and paramilitary with their members and with their family members are living in. Sir, worry that this negligence of the welfare of our barracks is affecting their physical, psychological, and well-being of the security personnel, thereby endangering the safety of all, including myself. My prayers are 1. Urge the House to mandate the relevant committees to ensure the prompt rehabilitation of the aforementioned barracks. 2. The relevant committee should be mandated to relate with the various military and paramilitary formations to identify all barracks affected by such decay and negligence. And 3. mandate the relevant committees to go on oversight of these barracks to see and assess with their own judgment. Thank you.
Honorable Bende, I do not expect you that members haven't waited patiently to allow you to take a motion. Honorable, I don't expect you to go out because I beg you after the convenience you come back. Thank you. Seconder. Yes, sir.
Mr. Speaker, my name is Honorable Jimo Olaifa. I rise to second the motion as moved by Honorable Ibrahim Obanikoro. I so second.
Colleagues, this is an infrastructure related motion. Amendment? Okay.
Thank you very much once again, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Honorable Ifeanyi Chudimoma. I represent the good people of Ihiala Federal Constituency. I'm from Anambra State. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my amendment has to do with prayer 2, because of course we know that the armed forces, the police and the paramilitary people, that we actually need some sort of reformations and correctional habits in them, and moreover, I think the prisons barracks is also there. So my amendment will read that mandate the committees on defense, police affairs and reformatory institutions to interface with the military and paramilitary formations. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My respected.
I recognize Lekio. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Mukhtar Zakar Chawai, member representing Kauru Federal Constituency of Kaduna State. I rise to second the amendment proposed by Honorable Ifeanyi Chudimoma. I so second.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of the motion as amended say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Respected colleagues, the next order of the day is a motion on the World Day for Social Justice, call for action to eliminate the inequalities and barriers in Nigeria, standing now Honorable Nkiruka. Nkiruka invited him to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. I am Kiruka Onyejocha. I represent the good people of Isukwatu Munochi, Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I'm from Ahmed State. This motion is in commemoration of World Day of Justice, a call to eliminate the inequalities and barriers in Nigeria, and is co-sponsored by my Chief Whip, Honorable M.T. Mugulu, and the Minority Leader, Honorable Ndudi Elumelu. The House notes that February 20th every year has been declared as the World Day of Social Justice, aimed at removing barriers based on gender, age, race, ethnicity, religion, culture, and disability. The House also notes that since 2009, every 20th February has been observed as the World Day of Social Justice, whose purpose is to focus on eliminating social injustice and to press for improvement and inclusive solutions for social justice. The House further notes that this year's theme is tagged Closing the Inequalities Gap to Achieve Social Justice, focusing attention on inequalities that affect labor relations, such as exploitation in employment and decent work agenda. The House is worried that 5 out of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, of the United Nations, which is no poverty, zero hunger, gender equality, decent work, and economic growth and inequalities, covers issues that relate to social justice. The House is aware that acts of social justice is visible in Nigeria, which includes trafficking in women, political and social exclusion of women in various places, inequality of opportunities, even employment, exploitation in employment, child labor, denial of human rights, environmental injustice, etc. The House is concerned that these social injustice indicators have a direct implication on the extreme poor and also on the extreme poor. Excuse me, let me take that again. The House is concerned that these social injustice indicators have a direct implication on the extreme poor and also widening the inequalities gap in Nigeria. The House believes, in commemoration of this year's theme on social justice, that there should be an urgent need to call on government agencies, community-based organizations, and other relevant stakeholders to mobilize action plan at eliminating the barriers that people face. Example, unemployment, social exclusion, and poverty, as Nigeria is signatory to the Copenhagen Declaration of 14th March 1995, and today is 55 years after. The House urged the federal government to develop a short and long-term action plan in focusing on the issue of eliminating all acts of inequality in Nigeria, and also mandate the Committee on Women Affairs and Social Development, Justice and Labor, Employment and Productivity to ensure compliance and report back to the House within specified time that the House will do. I so move.
Yes, Honorable Duku.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, my highly respected colleagues. I'm Honorable Aisha Jibril Duku, Gimbier Duku, member representing Dukuna for the Federal Constituency. I rise to second the motion ably moved by my sister. I so second.
In 2 minutes or 1 minute, you give us a synopsis and we'll put the question.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I am Kiru Kauye Georgia, and I represent the people of Isukwatu Federal Constituency. I'm from Abia State. Mr. Speaker, today is World Day of Social Justice, and this is just for the House to lend their voice to this particular day that has been slated all over the world to mark this day. And according to this year's theme, closing the inequalities gap to achieve social justice, and of course drawing from the SDGs, we should be looking at certain inequalities that have existed in time past and is still perverting as we speak. For instance, as we speak, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, we still have this casualization of workers in several industries. And I also know that it is injustice for somebody to be employed for years, maybe so for upward of 20 years, 25 years, and the person is still placed on casualization. That means that the person who is employed under casualization policy will not be promoted, and the person is not going to be pensionable, the person is not going to have retirement benefit. This is injustice. Mr. Honorable colleagues, the insecurity we have all over the world, and especially in Nigeria, if we look at it, there are injustices that are being meted to the people. But this one now is not from government, it's from individuals who have taken up arms and all that. And Mr. Honorable colleagues, there is no way we'll be talking about development when we do not address the issue of injustice. So today is just for the Parliament to take note that this particular day is slated for issues that borders on injustice. As a house, we can come up with solutions on how to tackle this injustice, but with particular reference to those ones that are impeding our development as a country. We cannot continue to sit down here where people are suffering injustice and then we expect development, because anyone who is faced with issues of injustice is deprived already. And of course, like we move the motion on the compulsory free education in the country. And if people, as we speak, are not getting free and compulsory education, I'm supposed to believe, and I know that everybody believes, that it is injustice against those particular people. Come and talk about this disabled people amongst us. Mr. Speaker, there are some people who are disabled. It's not because they choose to be, and the society is not taking care of them. If you're coming to National Assembly today, you do not have spaces for wheelchairs to bring people to the chamber, even in hospitals, even in our public institutions. So these are issues that are bordered on injustice, and I believe that this motion is just awakening us to know that one injustice to one is injustice to all. And I plead that my colleagues should lend their voice to this and then pass it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Today, well, firstly, my name is Honorable Chinedu Benjamin Obidigwe, representing Anambra East and West Federal Constituency, Anambra State. Mr. Speaker, today being 20th day of February 2020, and today this motion on floor on the World Day of Social Injustice, or Justice, Social Justice, sorry, is a very remarkable one. This is supposed to be a day our country, Nigeria, will be reflecting on our doing and undoing. It is supposed to be a day we'll be reflecting on how many people have been drafted out of this country. It's supposed to be a day we will be reasoning on how many youths who, in the search of their greener pasture, left the shores of this country and died in the Mediterranean Sea. It's supposed to be a day we would be thinking to what extent have we cared about our younger ones, the children. If you go all the roads, in marketplaces, during school hour, you will see children selling groundnut, carrying it on train pan, selling, going around, roaming around the street. Is a day the country should be standing to say that enough is enough. Is a day we begin as a hello chamber to reason the best way we can engage our youths to be gainfully employed and highly meaningful for our future. I commend Honorable Nkiru for bringing such a good motion that call for attention, that call for consideration. Mr. Speaker, we need as a country to start today. Teaching time saves 9. We can begin today and we start enough early. Mr. Speaker, at this juncture, I called on all the states in Nigeria, all the local government, all the meaningful stakeholders to join hands to curb injustice against humanity in this very nation. Mr. Speaker, you can think about a situation where someone has been granted bail by court, and such a person remained in the court, in the custody of the police or SSS, without being granted that bail. Mr. Speaker, today is a sober reflection. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ahmed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Ahmed Jaha Babao is my name. Chief of Damboa Goza Federal Constituency is where I represent. Mr. Speaker, permit me to start by commending the mover of this motion to commemorate this day of social justice.
Mr. Speaker, I want to emphasize on 3 areas of concern. 1, the civil service. Mr. Speaker, you realize that civil servants spend substantial part of their life serving their nation. But you realize that there is a form of contributory pension where an individual employee is allowed to make some certain percentage of contribution, and the employer should equally make certain percent of contribution. And all contributions are going to what we normally call retirement savings account. And is expected of the scheme by every pension fund administrator to furnish each and every employee in the scheme with the statement of his or her account at the end of every month or at request at will. But unfortunately, substantial part of MDAs don't normally remit their own part of contribution, which to me is a clear injustice on the part of employees. Still, on the part of employees, Mr. Speaker, is in the areas of providing group life insurance cover for every employee, and the sum assured must equal to the 3 times annual emolument of that particular employee. You realize that substantial part of workers are still not covered with this thing. In the event of death or permanent disability, they have nothing to take home to their relatives. Secondly, the second area of concern for me today is people living with disability. Mr. Speaker, there is a need for Nigerian government to understand that the people that live with disability is not their own making. Some are born natural with it. Some have personal disability as a result of accident and other related issues. But if we are designing structures in Nigeria, particularly public institutions, we don't take into cognizance the existence of these people living with permanent disability. So there is a need for all the relevant agencies to take into cognizance whenever they are embarking on building public structure, to take into cognizance usage of things like lift, escalators, and other slabs that people living with disability can equally have access to that particular organization. Another thing, the people designing what they normally call, is it flyover or what do they call it? I don't know, I'm not an engineer. You realize that in some advanced countries of the world, they provide a side lift so that a person living with disability can use that lift, and that lift can take him or her up so that he can cross the road. So all these, if we can take into cognizance, should be taken into cognizance whenever we are designing something like this. So this is my contribution.
Thank you. Yes, Honorable Munguno.
Honorable Speaker, for all members, my name is Mohamed Tahir Munguno. I represent Marke Munguno, Ganze Federal Constituency of Borno State. My contribution will come against the backdrop of one of the cardinal principles of this government that seeks to lift 10 million people out of poverty. And this motion and this day that we are celebrating coincides with this noble agenda of the government to lift 10 million people out of poverty. And for the government to achieve that, there is a need for us to pursue to its logical conclusion, now that we are embarking upon constitutional amendment, to amend the provision of the Constitution which states that education, which brought education under the directive principles of state policy, and take it to fundamental human rights, so that education can now be justiciable, unlike before where it is not justiciable, because education is a veritable tool that we can deploy with a view to attaining not only basic literacy and numeracy, but to lift people out of poverty. So, in consonance with this day, and in consonance with the United Nations Declaration, I urge my colleagues to, at the appropriate time, wholeheartedly support this provision of the Constitution that is sought to be amended to make education a fundamental human right as opposed to remaining under the fundamental objectives and directives principle of state policy, and take it to fundamental human rights so that it can be justiciable and this noble aim of government will be attained. That is my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's welcome colleagues. I thought we need to move forward. There are a lot of other things. The message is very clear. We have keyed into the international. I want to beg. We have keyed into it, and we have recognized it there, and we are also part of the nationwide, worldwide. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. That serve it. Respected colleagues, the next order of the day is a motion on need to investigate the allegation of breach of due process in the ongoing recruitment exercise by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, standing now Honorable Nicholas Wase. Honorable Wase invited to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues. I remain Honorable Osai Nicholas Osai. I represent local Plenary constituency of Justice State. With your kind permission, Mr. Speaker, I will request wholeheartedly that we step down this motion. Probably I'm not in the best frame of mind to do that.
Apart from your state of mind, I'm aware that this motion has been brought before the House and is under investigation by Committee Wale Raji. Apart from that, there is a petition that is being investigated again by the chairman of public petition, Committee on Public Petition, on this very same matter. And it will sound as if dilatory as far as by my own opinion, with the numbers of investigation going on. Thank you very much. So, motion step down by leave of the House. Respected colleagues, the next order of the day is a motion on need to investigate the non-remittance of aid. The next order of the day is a motion on need to ensure the implementation of National Assembly 2018 budget, particularly on staff matters. Standing now, Honorable Ibrahim Babangida. Honorable Babangida is invited into the motion.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name remains Honorable Babangida Ibrahim. I'm representing Manampashi, Darfur Federal Constituency, and from Katsina State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I rise to move a motion on the need to ensure the implementation of the National Assembly budget of 2018, particularly on staff matters. The House notes that on Thursday, 20th December 2018, the report of Committee on Finance and Judiciary on the need to ensure implementation of National Assembly budget was adopted on the floor of the House. The House should also note that the report of the Committee and the provision of 2018 Appropriation Acts show that on monthly basis, what the National Assembly and Judiciary were receiving on first line charge was short by 1,208,333,333 naira 33 kobo and 833,333,333.33 kobo respectively for both National Assembly and Judiciary. Also aware of the resolution of the House, there were two resolutions then. One, to order the Minister of Finance to release 100% on the first line charge for both National Assembly and Judiciary as captured in 2018 Appropriation Act. Concern that the failure of the Minister of Finance to comply with the resolution of the House has continued to affect the smooth operation of National Assembly. Result 2. 1. Set up ad hoc committee to liaise with the Minister of Finance to ensure that all outstanding arrears of first line charge for both the National Assembly and Judiciary related to 2018 and 2019 Appropriation Act are paid. Resolution number 2. Empower the Ministry of National Assembly to prove the ad hoc committee on the status of releases and finances to the National Assembly from 2018 to December 2019. I so move, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Seconder. Yes, Honorable Luga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Taiwo Oluka. I represent all the people of the Rewali Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am from Osun State. I rise to second the motion as moved by Honorable Babangida. I so second. Thank you, sir.
Give us the synopsis of the motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. Mr. Speaker, during the 8th Assembly, there was attempts by the South of the National Assembly to embark on strike as a result of inability to pay their entitlements. As a result of that action, a joint committee was set up, Committee on Finance and Judiciary, to look into the matter and get the Minister of Finance and report back to the House. The report of the Joint Committee was laid on the floor and it was adopted on the 20th of December. The adoption was to engage the Minister of Finance and ensure that all outstanding releases related to first line charge are paid. The second one is to ensure compliance and also to ensure that this type of action is completely not repeated. Unfortunately, and our record has shown that for whatever reason, that the releases were short by these figures. For whatever reason, the Minister of Finance need to understand that first line charges are supposed to be paid 100%. And we are aware, even within the same period, some agencies of government like Universal Basic Education, ANEC, they release their releases on first line charges 100%. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, we are all aware that currently the National Assembly is facing a lot of challenges. And these challenges has to do with the inability for the Minister of Finance to release, for example, in the first 2018, about 14 billion naira, which is outstanding unremitted funds. That is why I brought this motion, since it was already adopted and resolved on the floor of this House, to do a follow-up on this matter. And also, to invite the National Assembly management to brief us on the status of the releases and finances so that we know the extent of financial challenges the National Assembly is facing. Thank you very much.
Any further contribution? Nkiruka, it's investigative, yes, one was. Yep.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I am Kiruka Onyejoch. I represent the good people of Isukwatu Federal Constituency and from Ahmed. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, in supporting this motion, I just have something to add. That instead of setting an ad hoc committee on this, you can ask the finance committee to look into it, but with the caveat that the part of the motion should be part of the investigation as at the time it will be taken, because I think he's a star witness or somebody who is privy to it, instead of setting a whole ad hoc committee to come and investigate it.
What of the House?
That is
the House services to do it? Why finance?
That's the point. But what I am against is ad hoc. It could be House services the way you said, but Anyway, what I'm saying is that I support the motion, but I believe that setting up of an ad hoc committee to address it may not just be good. But he is also saying that it's not a financial issue that concerns the Committee on Finance. And I'm saying it's either the leadership or, as he is saying, maybe house services. But whichever that committee that is going to look at it should also prompt him if he's not a member of that committee, because as far as I'm concerned, he knows much about this as a star witness to be, instead of setting up another committee. That's my own humble submission.
Do you say star witness? Thank you. I think you are too. Yes, on the preside.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues. I remain honorable Osai Nicholas Osai. I represent the Plenary Federal Constituency of Delta State. Mr. Speaker, I support this motion wholeheartedly, and with the prayer itself, I give a lot of support because I was in a committee of finance with Honorable Ibrahim Babangida in the 8th Assembly. And vividly, we confronted the Minister of Finance as of that time. The reason why most of these issues are not adhered to, that is questioning the authority of an appropriation, so to Appropriation Act. So to that extent, probably you need carefully an independent body. Probably that's why he raised issues of ad hoc committee. And we have been constituting an ad hoc committee when we looked at an issue that borders and matters on issues, let us another eye look at it, because the consulted committee has been looking at it before and probably have not been able to explain that there's a problem. So on that ground, Mr. Speaker, I wholeheartedly support the Honourable Speaker and the House to consult an ad hoc committee in respect of this issue. I so submit, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. Musa Turkin Adar, I represent the Gadagora constituency. I think this matter, I will appreciate Honorable Babangida's effort to bring it up here. But I would like us to understand what we are facing. What Babangida was trying to draw is the attention of the paucity of funds in the National Assembly, to my understanding, of which I can subscribe to, because until now, most of our legislative aides have not been paid their entitlement of severance. My one has not been paid. And I know many who have not been paid. I know some of the staffs, permanent and ad hoc, working with us, complaining of some of their dues that have not been met. So if this is the case, there's no problem for us to investigate, find out the releases of finances due to us as budgeted. Is it proper, and is it being accomplished? If no, yes, we should find a way of investigating to find out what happened, so that we will not have this problem. Even last week, the House media speaker has said National Assembly need more money, and President Buhari yesterday admitted we need enough funds to carry out our jobs as it is supposed to be. In this circumstance, I would like us to find a way that we can resolve this matter, so that we can have enough funds to do our duties, and the staff working for us, they should have what it is. Mr. Speaker, we shouldn't go beyond this. There are certain that cannot be said. As of today, many of us, when we write request, approval are given by you and the Speaker. When it comes to process, it takes months before these funds come to us. As of today, I have about 4 referrals that I'm supposed to report to the House within 2-3 weeks. Until now, I'm not being given a couple. The argument always is there are no funds. There are no funds. So please, let us do justice to this institution and to the nation. Let us know who is holding our money, so that we can do our job as at when to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm Honorable Engineer Muhammad Ali Udil. I represent Udil Garko Federal Constituency. I'm from Kano State. Let me follow what the previous speaker said with regards to paucity of funds in the National Assembly. This cannot be overemphasized. But the Speaker, I'm going straight to the prayer of the motion. I think the prayer of the motion is to set up ad hoc committee. And that ad hoc committee involves a lot of maybe in the formation of the ad hoc committee, you may have from house services, finance, appropriation, so that who have knowledge in terms of the budgetary, in terms of the revenue, and in terms of the disbursement. So I say, Mr. Speaker, I subscribe to the prayer of the motion to set up an ad hoc committee, so that I know the House made a resolution that we should reduce the number of ad hoc committees. But this is a special case, Mr. Speaker. It has to do with the life of the Assembly, because finances are a great tool in terms of the progress of this House. This is a special case. I'm not subscribed to ad hoc committees, but for this case, Mr. Speaker, let's allow the prayer to set up the ad hoc committee. I support the prayer of the motion. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
To Chairman Media.
Mr. Speaker, sir, honorable colleagues, I'm Lawan Shatima Ali, representing Brusari, Gaidami, Nusari Federal Constituency. I'm from Wase, sir. Mr. Speaker, going by this motion, as can be seen in the contents, it shows that two arms of government were being changed. That's the legislature as well as the judiciary. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, has been moved by Honorable Babangida and being seconded by honorable colleagues. I'm of the opinion that these two prayers are very much in line. First, to set up the ad hoc committee, and secondly, to liaise with the Minister of Finance to find out why these monies were not being paid. Mr. Speaker, when we talk of first line charge, it means has to be done up. It means to pay upfront before even other activities or sharing of the grants can be considered. But unfortunately, because the legislature as well as the judiciary have no representative in the disbursement committee, maybe that's why we were being shortchanged. In this regard, this honorable House, I believe, will support this motion for the House to set up the committee for this special assignment, at least to get positive result in good time. I saw Samisa.
Yes, Aboga.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name remains Honorable Sylvester Aboga. Mr. Speaker, when we talk about just 24 hours ago, we are talking of transparency when we launched the Green Chamber magazine. We shouldn't shy away from the prayer of this motion. The prayer is talking about sitting ad hoc committee. And this is an issue that involves so many committees as has been adduced by the earlier speakers. And in this case, we are talking about first line charge. And we understand what that means. It's not like we are talking about releases in batches and so on. So let us know where the problem is. Let us know whether it is a challenge on the ability of the House to do its constitutional duties of budgetary management. So, in my own opinion, I agree with the resolution of this motion that it is apt to get some hands from amongst us to look at why the situation is like that. Yeah, our image, like we had used and talked about yesterday, has been on the streets of this country that we are not transparent of what is happening. We can engage media over it so that we don't wait to be washed the dirty links of what is happening at the executive and the parliament. I so submit, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Actor Ibrahim Al-Mustafa, member representing Wurno, Rabafra constituency, I'm from Sokoto State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to lend my voice in support of this motion ably moved by Honorable Babangida Ibrahim. Ordinarily, we shouldn't have commented on this. Why? Because maybe the whole country will look at us as maybe we are trying to do justice to ourselves. But the fact remains that today, legislature, as an important arm of government, is seriously facing financial challenges. If releases from January 2018 to date that affect the welfare of the staff, the operational needs of the National Assembly are not released, despite the fact that the National Assembly as an arm of government is placed on the first line charge, Mr. Speaker, is of great concern. And I think all the prayers, as requested by the mover of this motion, should be granted. There's need to investigate and find out why. Because at the end of the day, as an arm of government, if it's not equitably financed, we may find ourselves in trouble, Mr. Speaker, of not discharging our constitutional responsibility. So this is a very important and timely motion and should be given a very important attention, Mr. Speaker. I so support. Thank you very much.
Put a question.
Okay. Honorable Speaker, honorable members, my name is Mohamed Tahir Munguno. I represent Marke Munguno, Gaze Federal Constituency of Borno State. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the system of government that we are now oppressing is a presidential system of government that presupposes separation of powers and independence of each arm of government. That is why clearly our functions were outlined in section 4, 5, and 6 of the Constitution. And the reasoning behind placing the judiciary and the National Assembly on first-line charge is to guarantee the independence of these arms of government. Because in a situation whereby any arm of government, either the judiciary or the legislature goes to the executive, cup in hand, to beg for funds to run its operation, then its independence is compromised and it is doing violence to the very clear and unequivocal provision of the Constitution that guarantees the independence of these arms of government, and it goes even counter to the presidential system of government that we are operating. So it is now left for the House to rise to the occasion and jealously guard and protect its independence, and that is by way of making sure that all that is due to it as first line charge should be given to the House or to the National Assembly, as the case may be, without let or hindrance. Thank you.
The question now is those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. That's have it. I think I would say motion referred to the ad hoc committee to be constituted later. Amendment? Which amendment after question? Huh? colleagues, the name of the day is a motion need to investigate the non-remittance of 8 trillion naira into the Federation account by the Nigerian Post Authority. Standing in the Honorable Richard Bende. Honorable Bende is invited to the motion.
The Speaker, distinguished colleagues, my name is Dr. Richard Bande. I represent the people of Kasanala, Ukum, Logo Federal Constituency. I am from Plenary State. I just asked to step down the motion until further notice. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Motion leaves a step down by leave for the House. Respected colleagues, the 14th order of the day is consideration of bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Adeyemi Federal University of Education, Ondo, for promotion and development of teachers' education in Nigeria and for related matters. Honorable members will recall that the bill was committed to the Committee of the Whole on Thursday, 21st November 2019. Honorable Makinde Abiola will move for this consideration.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues. This bill was passed in the 8th Assembly, both in the House and the Senate, and was forwarded to the President for assent.
You are just supposed to move for the constitutional report at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I, Honorable Abiola Peter Makinde, representing the good people of Ondo, East West Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am from Ondo State. I move that this bill should be considered and adopted today. It's a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Adeyemi Federal University of Education, Ondo, for the promotion and development of teacher education in Nigeria and for related matters. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Seconder. Yes, Adama.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, my name is Kwamoti Idris Lauri, representing Numan Jamsa Lamude Federal Constituency from Adamawa State. I second the motion has moved. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Respected colleagues, the fifth order of the day is consideration of a bill for an act to establish 15th order of the day is consideration of a bill for an act to establish the Federal University of Agriculture, Sabangida, Langton South, to make comprehensive provision for its due management and administration and for related matters. Honourable members will recall that the bill was committed to a committee of the on Wednesday, 5th November 2019. On Plenary is invited to move the motion for its consideration.
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Benila is not on the floor. I move that the bill be stepped down by the leader of the House. I so move.
Thank you. Leave the bill step down by the bill of the House. Constitution step down by the leave of the House. Respected colleagues, the 16th order of the day is concerned of a bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Administration of Nigeria and to make provisions, among other things, for membership of the control of profession of public administration and for related matters. All members will recall that the bill was committed to Committee of the Whole on Wednesday, 6th November 2019. Honorable Gideon Goni will move for his consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Gideon Goni. I come from Kaduna State and I represent Kaura Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I move that the bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Public Administration of Nigeria and to make provisions, among other things, for membership and control of the profession of public administration and for related matters, HB 329. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I move that this bill, the report of this bill be considered in the committee of the whole.
Konda,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Ari Mohammed Abdul Mumin. I represent Nasrallah Toto Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to second the motion, ably moved by the right honorable colleague. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Respected colleagues, the sitting order of the day is a bill for an act. It's a constitution of a bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Social Work Practitioners and to make provisions, among other things, for membership of and control of the profession of social work and for related matters. Honourable members will recall that the bill was committed to committee of the whole on Wednesday, 13 November 2019. Honourable Sylvester Aboga is invited to move for the consideration.
Honourable Speaker and colleagues, my name is Honourable Sylvester Aboga, representing Abakaliki Federal Constituency. I'm from Ebonyi State. I move that the bill for an act to establish social works practitioners and to make provisions, among other things, for membership and control of the professions of social works and for other related matters be considered and adopted today. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Seconder, Jega.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, my honorable colleagues. I remain Mohammed Umar Jega, representing Alarugondu Jega Federal Constituency. I rise to second the motion, ably moved by my friend, Honorable Sylvester, that the report be considered. I so stand.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Respected colleagues, the 18th order of the day is consideration of a bill for an act to establish the Nigerian Peace Corps to develop, empower, and provide gainful employment for youth, facilitate peace, volunteerism, community service, neighborhood watch, and nation building, and for related matters. All members who called the bill was committee of the whole on 28 July 2019 on the Guide Mongol is for consideration.
Honorable Honorable Speaker, honorable members, my name is Mohammed Tahir Monguno. I represent Marke Monguno, Ganzai Federal Constituency of Borno State. I am craving for the indulgence of the House to step down the consideration of this bill because there are issues that are yet to be sorted out.
Please step down by the leader of the House. Respected colleagues, leader moved that the House will dissolve committee of the whole consider reports.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable members, I rise to move as directed by the Speaker of this House that the House do resolve to the Committee of the Whole to consider reports. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Acting Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and also for calling me Acting Deputy Speaker. I am Honorable Engineer Muhammad Ali Udil. I represent Udil Garko Federal Constituency. I'm from Kano State. Our Speaker, I rise to second the motion as ably moved by the powerful at home and the National Assembly Leader, Honorable Alassane Ado Garba.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against nay, the ayes have it. House is hereby dissolved the committee with hold considered reports.
Honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Abiola Peter Makinde, representing the good people of Ondo, East, West Federal Constituency, Chairman from Ondo State. I rise this morning. This bill was passed by the 8th Assembly, both in the House of Senate and House of Representatives, and forwarded to the President for assent, but for which assent was not communicated to the House before the end of the tenure of the preceding Assembly. Mr. Chairman, this bill seeks to provide for establishment of Adeyemi Federal University of Education, Ondo, for the promotion and development of teacher education in Nigeria and for related matters. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If I may ask, because you said this bill, same bill was sent to the President and he returned it to us, meaning there are issues. Were you able to identify the issues, or there were any issue attached to it?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we were able to attend to the issues that were presented by Mr. President. Actually, there was no communication from, thank you, Mr. Chairman, there was no communication from the presidency before the end of the tenure of the preceding assembly. So we had to present it again, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
To clear to the houses, I'm aware that Adeyemi is a college of education. Are you seeking to upgrade that institution to university status?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, because it's already, we're trying to upgrade it from the College of Education to that of university. Thank you, sir.
So ordinarily, the presentation of the bill will have been repeal and reenact, since it is an existing institution. Am I right? It's an existing institution, so it will be repeal and reenact. In that case, you have to go back again. We have to step it down to go through the provisions of the law and then look at those you are upholding and then those, because you are now writing the bill as if the report, as if it is a fresh bill. It's not a fresh bill. It's to repeal and enact. Repeal the Adeyemi College of Education and enact the establishment of university, Adeyemi College University. Thank you. Do that quickly and return back to the House. Good. Thank you. We'll step down by the bill of the House, by the leave of the House, sorry. Sabangida was still down. She wasn't around. Respected colleagues, the second bill to be considered is for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Administration of Nigeria and to make provisions, among other things, for membership and control of the profession of public administration and for related matters. I invite Honorable Gideon Gwani to give the synopsis of the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Gideon Gwani. I come from Kaduna State,
and I represent Kaura Federal Constituency. Mr. Chairman, honorable colleagues, the report to be considered is on the bill to establish the Chartered Institute of Public Administration of Nigeria. And the institute is to be charged with the responsibility for registration of members of the institute of persons who seek to be public administrators. Mr. Speaker, the bill also seeks to establish the legal and legislative framework in order to determine the level of standard of knowledge and skills that is required for persons who wish to practice in this profession. Mr. Chairman, honorable colleagues, it is again this institute is expected to guide and control all those who seek to practice the profession. It's a simple bill that requires legislation to establish the institute. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sir.
Sorry, sir. So, Mr. Chairman, you recall that this report was recalled back in order to correct some of the issues that were contained in this report. One of the problems that was raised by members was the issue of what funds means, and it was not included in the interpretation. And as such, we have consulted and corrected that issue of funds. If you go through the interpretation, you find what fund of the institute is all about. Then secondly, there was this issue of acts being represented in the report repeatedly, which was advised that it should still remain as a bill until this report passes through this consideration. And as such, Mr. Chairman,
you will have just guided her to say we are resuming consideration. That's why he does the definition of public administrator. Step down totally? Okay. Then it was stepped down totally. But they have been able to now define those issues that were raised and correct. So it's the corrected version that we have now. Thank you. Those in favor of clause 1, clause 2, clause 2, clause 2, clause 3, clause 3, clause 4, clause 5, clause 6, clause 7, clause 8, clause 8, clause 9, clause 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 23, 22, sorry, 22, 23, 24, 25, 25. I wanted to see whether we are actually going together. Thank you. Schedules 1, 2, 3. Explanatory memoranda. Explanatory memoranda. Long title. Thank you. Respected colleagues, the next bill to be considered is for an act to establish a Chartered Institute of Social Work practitioners and to make provisions, among other things, for members and control of profession of social work and related matters. I now invite Honorable Sylvester Boga to move to give us a synopsis of the bill.
Mr. Chairman, honorable colleagues, my name remains Honorable Sylvester Boga. I want to inform the House that this bill is one of those bills that came to the House through Order 12 through 16 of our rules. It was communicated to Mr. President on conclusion, and to which assent of communication, withholding of assent was communicated to the House, and the due processes of regazetting has been fully followed. It has 33 clauses. It's concerned with the social works professionals. It's already an institution that is existing, but cannot access international recognition because of lack of legislative framework guiding their action passed by the Parliament. And that is why this bill became important. And I ask our dear colleagues to consider the report because already the work that was fully done before this assembly. I so submit, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, because this work was already a concluded work. I saw few places, maybe by typographical error, that we have act. That's only omission. We said act instead of bill, so that wherever this act is found, it's supposed to be bill. It's an appeal, Mr. Chairman. Any place. It's consideration. Consideration, Mr. Chairman. Who is a social worker? Yes, social worker. So many people claim to be social workers, including nurses and doctors. But this is completely different from being a social worker. These are professionals trained on social issues, including that of reformatory, including that of orphanages, including that of managing sane persons. They are trained specially on this. They may be health workers or other field workers that control the activities of this. So these are the real situation in the bill.
Yes, Honorable Sada.
Some clarification from the sponsor of this bill, whether this institute will be funded by the public treasury.
On its own, they don't depend on the government funds for existence. They fund themselves, they are professionals in their field.
Thank you. Those in favor, clause 1. Clause 2. let me say that it is not in the spirit of the House that we share, except that we will appeal to members to allow us do the consideration. It is supposed to be in our archives in case issues come up. And I want to say that it's important that the bureaucrats do their best to ensure that before consideration bills are distributed. It was raised in the, if you remember, during the executive session, this matter was brought up. Please, let's avoid things that will bring encumbrances into our own good job. Thank you. Thank you. He is the head. He is the head of the. Thank you. Clause 2, clause 3, clause 4. Carried. Clause 4. Clause 5. I don't know. I have issue with that definition of. And if you say you define those who are social workers, and now you say they may register a member as an honorary fellow or corporate member. An honorary fellow should be a person who has been in the continuous employment of a reputable organization as a social worker for at least 15 years. So until you take the age of 15 years before you become a member, or what?
We have provision for honorary member. And it depends on the number of years of practice of those persons alongside with the professionals that they have. Even financial sponsors of those institutions are named as honorary members.
Read that provision again. I believe you believe with my own colleague.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chairman, sir. Architect Ibrahim Al-Mustafa, I represent Wunuraba. Sir, I just want to lend a helping hand to my brother here. As a professional, I'm not part of the sponsor, sir. Yes. I want to give my own understanding from yes. Who? Yes, that's what I want to use as a yardstick to explain, sir. Like in architecture, you know, usually there are requirements that you need to meet to be able to be registered as a fully registered architect. For example, after, you know, successfully completing your training as an architect, that is a master's degree in architecture. You pass through 2 years tutelage. From the 2 years tutelage, you have to go through a professional practice exam to be registered as a fully registered architect by the ACO. But there are some people that may not be registerable. For example, somebody who graduated with a 3rd class in architecture. He can still go and practice, but not as a fully registered architect. Maybe after some time, 15 to 20 years, the institute may consider that person and honor him and give him an honorary membership. So I think that is not the... Not the way to answer. I'll take my seat, Alisa.
here it's not talking about the professionals in this field, but has worked with that professionals or the institution for a period of 15 years, has the opportunity to be recognized and given honorary fellow. It's not the we're not talking about the professionals, but people who are by association has worked with the institution as ordinary staff of the institution for a period of 15 years, having known the processes and administration of that institute. It's done in every organization. There are other existing acts that we looked at to agree with this. It took time for us to even accept that it will be done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I also want to refer us to, even though it has been passed, but if you're stepping down for review, part of what you will consider is the issue of designation of a fellow, a senior member, because I don't think there's any professional institution in Nigeria that is senior member. It's either a member or a fellow. And we also need to look at what are the requirements, the stages of examinations that will qualify somebody to be a member. For example, let me refer you to 3B, why you are trying to define a senior member. A senior member is if he has possessed all stages of institute examinations and inducted, and is otherwise fit and proper, is speculative. If you are passing through exams, you have to write the exams and pass to automatically qualify you to be a particular member of the state. You don't allow it to be discretionary. Because by the time you allow it to be discretionary, which means you are not in a good time with somebody, you can decide to move you from one state to another. So professional exams are supposed to be self-movements. Your ability, your qualifications will automatically move you if you are not in good time with the councils of the institutes. So I think you need to define the qualification to be a member, the stages, and also I'm of the opinion that you delete senior member. From member, you automatically become a fellow, and for you to become a fellow, you need to possess certain experiences.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, is it? Okay.
Mr. Speaker, with due respect to my brother, I beg to disagree with that. Even in National Institute of Management, there is an associate member. So there is a category for you to graduate to a certain thing. I think they are creating categories for you for membership. I think what we can do, maybe just to remove that, but having a senior member, then associate member, then fellow, I think it's in order. It's very much in order. It happens to a number of institutes, professional institutes, where you cannot just graduate to become a fellow like that. You have to go through certain stages. In fact, even National Institute of Management, even if you write exams, you must attend certain workshops, certain number of workshops around the country for you to qualify to become a bona fide member, then associate member, then there is even a student something member.
You see, we should not be putting or making laws that are discriminatory. We should discourage that one as much as possible. If you say, and I want to be a member of Institute for Countries Affairs, for instance, lay out the procedures for me to either pass or fail. If I fail, I know, yes, it's clear. But when you make things to the decision of the person who will be at the helm of affairs, you may find a situation where qualified ones will be thrown out. And I think it will not be bad to put a very good law that Nigerians will be happy with us at the end of the day. I will beg it will not be harmful for the mover of the bill to just take 1-2 days, make a clean, and come back to the house, so that those areas of controversy will be removed. I have not heard of in an institute of, say, administrators, popular administrators, senior member, junior member, accountants, senior member, junior member. Ranking maybe only in parliament, yes. More explanation for the differential is available. No, let us not argue. It's not if there are defects, and we are not taking time to, so that we don't risk the chance of sending the bill then return to us. So this we can do it ourselves. Thank you. Look.
Mr. Chairman, I think on off your look, Federal Constituency from Akwa State. Mr. Chairman, I think at this point we need to take the cue from the chair. Looking through this bill, we go to clause 36, sir. You have asked for the definition of a social worker, and as part of the definition clause, even the social worker has not been given the definition of who is a social worker. Like he said, social worker, a person is deemed to be a professional social worker if for consideration for remuneration, received or to be received, or whether by himself or in partnership with any other person. It does not define. So at this point, like in Mr. Speaker's speech, he said we are reformers, and then if we want to come out with bills of the 9th Assembly that won't stand the test of time, I think it must be that one that we are not going to be faulted. So taking a cue from you, Mr. Speaker, and then with the permission of my brother, I think we can, instead of us to argue back and forth, we can take a position and then take this down, step it down, and ask them to go and do the fine-tuning, and then fill the gaps and come back with something that is clean, that we are not going to be argue back and forth. That is my humble submission, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You just mentioned a word. Social work, I think, is basically, our own profession. But this bill is so discriminatory from the first page to the last. It is only a he or his. There is nothing like has or she. So this is totally, discriminatory, and we are not accepting it. Please, sir, please take it back and look at it thoroughly, so that you consider the rightful owners of the bill, the women. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Chairman. I remain Benjamin Okezekalo. I represent the good people of Nigeria, starting from Ben, the Federal Constituency. Mr. Chair, I agree with you that this particular work needs fine-tuning. But having said that, it is difficult. I read sociology before reading law, and I know that it will be difficult to pigeonhole the profession of social work, social worker to a particular profession. And that was why in page 2, he mentioned that this institution will look at members of the institution shall be drawn from diverse professions that has interest in social work, and related matters, including community developers, adult education, sociology, psychology, medical, social, and all the rest of them. These are an organization that want to bring them together as long as they are interested in social work. But having said that as well, it is important for us to note that the issue of hierarchy, I belong to the International Commercial Arbitration, and to be a member, I wrote exam. And after that, to go to become a fellow, I wrote exam. Now, if you want to be chartered, you write exam. I'm yet to write that one. So there is this hierarchy, but it is not specified here. The process of migrating or graduating from one level to the other, it needs to be clear. It needs to really be clear. So I am in support of Mr. Chairman that this needs fine-tuning, but not to discourage the sponsor. There is still room for us to fix it. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, first of all, let me appeal to my sister that this is in line with legal drafting, where you don't begin to bring he, his, has, and so on. Then on the issues adduced, I will appeal to Mr. Chairman to maybe start from where we have reached, for me to look into those issues raised by some of my colleagues. I step down from the where we have considered.
Thank you. I think we'll step down for the consideration and the consideration after the necessary corrections. Thank you. That's all. Leader, move that will move back to the plenary to report progress.
Thank you, Chairman, honorable members. I rise to move that the House do revert to plenary and report progress of the committee. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Mr. Chairman, honorable members, I second that the House revert to plenary to report progress.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. House revert to plenary to report progress. Fellow colleagues, the House and the Committee of the Whole considered the report on a bill for an act to provide the establishment of the Federal University of Education on the promotion and development of teacher education in Nigeria and for related matters, and deferred consideration of the bill. Respected colleagues, the House and the Committee of the Whole considered the report on the bill for an act to establish the Federal University of Agriculture, Sabangida, Langtam. No. It was stepped down. It was stepped down. Respected colleagues, the Committee of the Whole, the House of the Committee of the Whole considered the report on a bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Social Work Practitioners and to make provisions, among other things, for members and control of provisions of social work and for related matters, and defer consideration of the report. One of the report is available here. Yeah, report. It's right here. Respected colleagues, the House and the Committee of the Whole considered the report on the bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Public Administration of Nigeria and to make provisions, among other things, for membership and control of the profession of public administration and for related matters, and approve clauses 1 to 24, schedules 1 to 3, respective memoranda and the long title for the bill. Leader, move for the adoption of the report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable members. I rise to move that the House to adopt the report as reported in the plenary. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I so move.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, I second the motion for the adoption of the reports of the Committee of the Whole.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Announcements to distinguished members and colleagues that you should visit room 1.53 for your official lapel and label pin and then magazines. Announcer, Chairman Media. Thank you. Leader, move that the House, for the adjournment of the House to Tuesday next week.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, thank you so much for the business of the day. I rise to move that this House do adjourn till Tuesday next week, 11 a.m. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I so move.
Yes. Mongolo.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, I second the motion for adjournment of the House to Tuesday next week.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. House is hereby adjourned to Tuesday next week, 11 a.m.